This video will show you how to replace your rear brake wheel cylinder on this Toyota Corolla. This is part of your rear brakes located behind your rear wheel. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we have to do is safely raise and support the rear of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. Once you've done that, you're going to remove all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts and we can get the wheel off of here. Now the next thing we're going to do is remove our rear brake drum from this area. To do that, if it doesn't just slide out of position, you can have a peek at these 2 ports. They're threaded. Find the bolt that fits into it, start it in, and then you just want to continue on by tightening this up. As you drive this in, it's going to start pulling the drum out and away. Just get that started into position. There we go. Now that we have the brake drum off, we have a clear view of the wheel cylinder. Now that we can see it, we just want to make sure that the brake shoes do move around and they are in good condition. If it looks like they're worn or damaged, it's a perfect time to replace them. We just want to make sure that they can move away from that wheel cylinder. After confirming that, we're back along the back side of the backing plate. We can start removing our brake line from the back side of the wheel cylinder. Now back here, we're going to be using a 10mm flare wrench so we can break this free. Let's make sure we have our collection receptacle under this area as we continue on. As you do break it free, you just want to make sure you're not twisting your brake line in any way. Once it is broken free, you can switch to an open end wrench if you'd like. Might be a little easier. Okay, we've got movement from that. In that same area, you're going to find 2 10mm headed mounting bolts. Start removing those. Let's get our next mounting bolt out of here. Starting to get some movement from that wheel cylinder. We want to make sure it doesn't fall out, potentially hurt us. Should be able to move this around. You can spread your shoes if necessary to pull that out of place. A little bit of fluid may come out. There it is, friend. Now that we have the wheel cylinder out of there, we want to make sure we clean the entire mounting surface. The first thing you need to do is make sure you cover the port on your brake line so nothing makes its way inside. We'll use some parts cleaner. Just clean this entire area. After cleaning the outboard side, you also want to make your way along the back side of the backing plate. Remove any brake fluid from that area. Now let's prepare to install our brand new rear wheel cylinder. Before we bring this up towards the backing plate, the first thing I always like to do is have a look in the ports where my rubber protective boots are. This is the area, if you were looking inside there, where there's an adapter that hits directly up against the rear shoes. We want to make sure that the slot in it is facing straight up and down, not side to side like what you can see inside this area. For that, if you just use your 10mm wrench, you should be able to come in at an angle and twist it as necessary. You can also use a flat blade screwdriver if necessary. Just be extremely careful not to cause any damage to the boot. After you've completed one side, just go over to the other side and repeat that exact same process. Just a light twist there. Make sure you don't cause any damage to the boot. Now, before we install this, there's one more thing we're going to do, and that's just remove the 10mm headed bleeder screw. We'll start bringing this into position towards our backing plate. You can squeeze in on those rubber boots with the adapters inside there and bring this into position. You want to be extremely careful not to cause any damage as you bring this over. Let's align this with the backing plate. We'll continue on pressing it in. Now as we start bringing this in, the first thing I always like to do is start installing my brake line while everything's loose here. Just make sure it's aligned. Typically you just want to go ahead and start this in by hand, but if you find that the brake line's hard to turn, you can use a wrench. Just be careful not to strip anything out. Once it is started in, we're going to pause and continue on with our 2 bolts before fully tightening that line. As for those 2 bolts, we're just going to start those in, snug them up, and the torque will be 87 inch-pounds. Now we got our torque wrench here. After you've torqued both of those bolts, make sure you tighten your brake line. I have that snug with my open end wrench. Now I'm switching to my flare end wrench. Make sure it's nice and tight. Now we can install our bleeder screw. Just going to start that into the back side of the wheel cylinder, and we'll lightly bottom it out. One last quick inspection in this area, and we'll clean our wheel bearing hub. You can use a wire brush or even a cloth sanding cookie if you have one of those. Now that I got this sanded down, let's just give that a quick wipe. Nice and clean. Let's apply some copper anti-seize to our wheel bearing hub. Just spread that around. Now the next thing you want to do is clean the mating surface on the back side or the inboard side of your brake drum. You can use a wire brush or some sandpaper. I'm replacing my brake drum. Along the back side of the backing plate here, we're going to remove this rubber plug. This is where we're going to gain access to our adjustment point. Quick inspection of that, we'll set it aside. Now prior to installing our brake drum, we're going to pay attention to the adjuster. I want to show you what's about to happen here. I'm going to be using an angled pry bar in and through the back of the backing plate. You can see me protruding through. We want to try to grab on to this cog, and you can make your adjustments for the brake shoes. You can either adjust them out or turn it the opposite way to adjust them in. Now that I've shown you what's about to happen, since this is going to be behind the brake drum, you really can't see very much. But essentially, when the drum is on, we want to continue tightening this until you have very little brake drag, or the brake shoes are just barely touching up against the brake drum. You don't want to have something to the point that you can't turn the drum, because friction creates heat, that'll cause things to expand, and your brakes might lock up on you. But if they're too loose, you step on the brake pedal's going to feel squishy, and you're not going to have very much braking from this wheel. Let's just go ahead and clean up that brake drum. I'm using some parts cleaner. Clean rag. We'll clean the entire braking surface all the way around. Let's clean that mating surface. And now we can get this in place. Now as you can tell here, this needs to be adjusted a little bit tighter, so we're pushing the shoes outward towards the drum, and when we spin this, we should hear a slight scraping noise. There we are, getting close now. There we are. Now after you've made your adjustment, you want to make sure you protect the port. We'll just use our rubber plug, slide it right into position. Let's get our wheel on here. We'll get that in place, start on all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts, we'll bottom them out. Get the wheel safely back down on the ground and torque each of these lug nuts to 76 foot-pounds. Now that we've got the wheel back on the ground, let's torque each one of our 21mm lug nuts to 76 foot-pounds. Torqued. Okay friend, we finished our installation. The last thing we want to do is check for leaks and take the vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we want to mention is you want to have several pints of clean .3 or .4 brake fluid and some parts cleaner. Now the first thing we want to do is make sure that all the bleeder screws on each one of our brakes opens as it should. Otherwise you might have to replace another braking component. After inspecting all those, we need to make our way back under the hood. We're looking for the master cylinder along the driver's side of the engine compartment. Let's gain access to the cap. For that, you can remove your seal up along the top here. We'll just go ahead and pull that in one direction or the other. It has several locking clips. We don't need to go too far here. That exposes our protective panel. It has two locking tabs. Squeeze them in and pull this up and out of place. Clean along the top of the master cylinder so you're sure that nothing will fall inside of it. You even need to pay attention up along this plastic cowl. After you've cleaned that area, we're going to remove our brake master cap. With that out of place, inside of the master cylinder, you're going to find that you have a small screen. We're going to want to remove that. For this, I'm just using an angled pick. We'll see if we can work it out of position. Let's see if we can pull that up and out of there. Set that aside. The next thing we need is a fluid extractor and a collection receptacle for all that fluid. Let's remove as much fluid as possible from inside the master cylinder. Now that we've removed as much fluid as possible from inside that master cylinder, we can reinstall our screen in this area. Just press it in there as far as possible. We've got our brand new clean .3 brake fluid. Go ahead and top off that master cylinder. We'll reinstall the cap. Now that we have the master topped off with brand new brake fluid, we made our way to the right rear brakes, or passenger side rear. We're going to start the bleeding sequence here. Now for the bleeding sequence, we're going to start at the passenger side rear, and then we're going to move to the driver's side front, diagonally. After we've bled that brake, we have to make our way up to the master cylinder, and we're going to check and top off that fluid. Once we've completed that, we're going to the driver's side rear, and then to the passenger side front. Once we've completed those two brakes, we're back up at the master cylinder. Now you can do this with a hose, you can use a small pan if necessary, whatever's best for you. This is going to be easiest if you have a second person to bleed the brakes. The person inside the vehicle is going to pump up the brake pedal till it feels nice and firm, approximately 3 to 5 times. They're going to hold it and let me know. While they're holding it, I'm going to open up the bleeder screw and fluid will come out of the bleeder screw. Once the fluid stops, I'm going to close the bleeder screw and I'm going to ask them to pump again. After it's firm, we're going to repeat this process several times until we know that we have only clean brake fluid making its way out of the system. Go ahead and pump up the brake pedal, please. I've got my hose on here. You should be able to see some fluid make its way out. Go ahead and pump. Go ahead and pump. You can release. Now at this point, I saw several times that I had only clean brake fluid making its way out of the system. Obviously, you want to continue this process until you've confirmed the same. Assuming you have, go ahead and remove your apparatus and clean up the mess in this area. Now as for the left front brakes, for the bleeder screw, we're going to be using an 8mm. We have our collection receptacles here so we can collect and recycle that fluid. We'll get this all in place. Go ahead and pump up the brakes, please. Go ahead and pump. That's looking good. Go ahead and pump. right, just one more time here. This is looking good. Now, just like before, repeat this process as many times as necessary to confirm that you have only clean brake fluid making its way out and definitely no air. After you've completed that, go ahead and clean up your mess, reinstall your bleeder screw cover. We're making our way up to the master cylinder next. All the brakes have been bled. Remove your master cylinder cap, and we can continue on topping off that fluid all the way up to the maximum line. Once you're sure it's topped off, reinstall your cover, clean any mess. We can install our cover on this area. Listen for an audible click. Reinstall your protective seal. You can see all of our small hooks here. Looking along the bottom of the seal, there's circular ports. Just go ahead and stretch it as necessary to slide it into position. Okay, friend, we finished bleeding our brakes. The torque for all of the wheels will be 76 foot-pounds. After you've completed that, you want to make sure that you pump up your brake pedal till it's firm and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.